What's up guys, I'm JJ and I'm here today to show you a new pew I've purchased. I have gone with an MTW from Wolverine Airsoft. I've purchased the Forged Tactical editions, couple of things on that really interested me. What I'm going to do today is going to quickly show you an unboxing video, everything you get in the box, the pew, the upper receiver, the lower receiver, how to set the pew up and how to operate the Premium FCU. Quick disclaimer, I've already opened a box, received it last week, and was far too excited to leave the box sealed until now. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I'm going to open the lid, straight away you're greeted with a bit of a pack. I have put all this back together so you can see straight away you get a bit of a start guide. Turn it over, you get some bits and pieces in here, so you get a nice patch here with the Forged Tactical logo. I pull this through, it's a bit tight. Okay, so as you can see we get the quick start guide, so running you through the different steps of how to basically set up your new MTW. Again, awesome patch here, be adding that straight onto my gear. Optional part, this little white piece here. As far as I'm aware, this goes close to or in the pistol grip and allows you to tighten the tension between the lower and upper receiver. We get some extra O-rings here for the Inferno Gen 2 engine. And we get a nice Wolverine Airsoft card. Now this is to basically take a look at the instructions, the owner's manual, and run through the process of basically setting up your 12-month warranty, which I would definitely recommend. So let me just put these bits to the side and we will take a look inside. Awesome. So as I've already mentioned, I've had a look at the gun, had a look at the pew, sorry. So there's a couple of bits not in bags. For example, this little O-ring here. Now this is for the nozzle. Now when you swap out the orange nozzle for the, oh, if I can get it out here, the Invictus nozzle, I think it's an Invictus nozzle, you are going to need the O-ring to make sure it's properly aligned. It's really useful, you can adjust it, so we will do that in a short while. I purchased the gun obviously recently, and you get a new 10-year gold challenge coin, which is pretty awesome. Really like that. This bit here is pretty much a cover for the pistol grip, so I imagine you can use that if you run the Premium FCU and the battery in the pistol grip. You can use that. And that hole there is basically for the HPA airline to come through. So I'll take that out of the pack as well. Put that over there. Got your magazine here, upper receiver, lower receiver. Really cool stock, really like the stock on this. I really like the rail. That's pretty much why I went for the Forged Tactical edition. Okay, now one thing I did notice on the upper receiver is the new CNC feed tube. Now I was a little bit confused when I received the rifle, pretty much because I'd only seen it was available on the Billet Gen 3 edition. So I did get in contact with Wolverine and they said it's now standard across all their guns, and they've got their, I think they call it the little bridge thing. That's basically to keep the engine aligned, but you do have the new CNC feed tube on the Tactical edition, the Forged editions, as well as the new Billet Gen 3. One thing I will do straight away is I'm going to take this nozzle off. Now remember, it is the opposite way. So it is that way. It's a counterclockwise thread. So I will take that off here. As you can see, I've already got the O-ring installed there, just so I can properly align the steel nozzle. There we go. Now, just a tip, this should feed on pretty nicely. If it's not feeding on nicely, you could be misthreading this nozzle, so I would definitely start again just to make sure it threads on easily. There we go, and the use of the O-ring so we can get that properly aligned. Just double check from here, that looks pretty good. Leave that there. The lower receiver, take that out. Extendable stock, really nice. feels great to hold. I currently only have a Critat Crisp Vector AEG. That feels awesome. This just feels next step up. So you've got your clip here for your sling. You can see in here the trigger board. There's a nice almost runway here through for the Premium FCU. Got the 2 pins, and the wire for the FCU will run under here. And then we've got the, I'm pretty sure this is the bolt catcher. Basically, when you reload the magazine, the gun won't fire. Clip that in, and then you'll be able to start releasing some BBs. I will quickly push these pins through and show you the Premium FCU. Get that one ready too. So here we have the Premium FCU. Really easy to use. Basically hold down these 2 pins here, or these 2 buttons for 5 seconds, release, and then you'll start seeing some lights, some flashing lights ready to change the settings. So we've got the option for dwell and rate of fire on the top switch. Push that down, you can change the settings for your semi and your auto. So you can have burst, you can have semi-semi. You can have the DMR setting, whereby it only lets you pull the trigger every 2 seconds, so you're not spamming semi at a higher dual rate. Really useful. Great FCU, and that's also one of the reasons why I bought the Forged Edition. I prefer that over the idea of the Spartan board, even though I know the Spartan board is supposedly pretty good. So I'll pull that through. Let's get these put together. So we're going to run the HPA airline through this. Now Wolverine do say to align the cable for your FCU this side, so on the left hand side of the airline, so the airline goes down that way. I don't know if you can see that very well. So I'll run that down here. That should feed through pretty nicely. Now I tend to, even though I've only had it a short period of time, get the first bolt in. And then you can almost use this as a bit of a hinge if you need to. If you just need to change the settings on your FCU, you can quite easily hinge the 2 receivers together. One other thing as well, when you're putting the receiver in here, make sure that you're not pinching this line. Make sure that it's pushed right down, otherwise they do say it could void the warranty. So push that down gently into there. And then once it's in, press the clip in, and then you have the 2 receivers put together. Awesome logo here for the Forged Edition. If I flip that over, you can see the biased open chamber here, and you've got your hop unit and your Inferno engine there. Pretty awesome, I must say. Now you do get, like I say, the magazine here. If I pull this out, really well packaged, I must say. And one thing I did notice when I first started messing around with this was that the catch for the magazine release was getting stuck. So that's just something to be aware of. When we push it in, it's pretty good, slot straight in. Now what I found was when I released the mag, as you can see straight away, I think it just needs a bit of use, but it's just getting stuck there. So when you try and load the magazine, it just wants to fall out. We pop that back in there, loads fine. Awesome. Now like I say, obviously when you're reloading, one thing to be aware of, as I've just reloaded, before I choose to fire again, I'm going to need to press this button here just to allow me to shoot. It's just the bolt catch there. So we've got the gun pretty much good to go. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to move this box out of the way so we've got a little bit more space. I'm going to get a battery installed and basically run you through the Premium FCU. So if I just lift this up here. Yeah, so I purchased a 7.4 300 milliamp LiPo. It's a Rebel LiPo. To be honest, as far as I'm aware, any small LiPos are going to do the trick for you. Try and get one that's going to fit in the buffer tube. Now obviously if you decide to run the Wraith X on this gun, you're going to have to find somewhere else to put it, and it's probably going to go in your pistol grip because the buffer tube will be taken up either from the smaller gas canisters or from the smaller HPA tank. I know you can get the covers for them as well. I have a friend that runs them. Let's go ahead and basically get this installed. So as I mentioned earlier, you can pop the back lug out. It can be a bit tough, especially when, there we go. Okay, so as I mentioned, we can just hinge this like so. Take the battery here, and we're going to pull the FCU through. So if I plug this in, we should get a little bit of a flash just to say it's registered the battery. Okay, there we go, I did see that. Now, just to show you quickly, what we basically want to do is to operate the FCU, we're going to hold down these two buttons. So 5 seconds, release, and then we can see we're flashing. So right now, I'm currently on the dwell setting. So I have basically just been playing around, which is why right now it's quite low. So what's going to happen is, when I press the top button, it's going to go up a setting, and it should move to a solid or a slow LED. It will move to a slow flashing LED, sorry. If I move down one, it's going to go down a setting to, again, another slow flashing LED. So if I press up, so we've got a slow flash, and it's going to quickly flash on the same number, which is number 5. Up again, slow flash, fast flash. Now, when we get all the way through, up through 7, we will have a solid LED, and then the next LED will start flashing slowly. All of this is on a really useful link on basically a downloadable PDF. I'll leave a link in the description for you if you do have an MTW and you want to take a look at the different dwell settings. It runs you through which LEDs should be flashing, and it basically gives you the specific value of dwell. Now, if I press both of these buttons simultaneously at the same time, I move to rate of fire. And this document also has the values for rate of fire, so how many you are shooting per second. Again, really, really useful. Now, one thing I will say is, after having a bit of a play around with this, what I noticed was that as I increased the rate of fire, the semi option on the gun was bursting. Really confused me. Had no idea what was going on. Had no idea to begin with that it was down to the rate of fire. So did some playing around with the dwell settings, unplugged the battery, plugged it back in, did some bits and bobs, even unplugged the FCU. Typically, as you do, posted on the MTW owners Facebook group to see if anybody had an opinion. Had some really great comments. I'm probably going to send it back to Wolverine just to see what's going on with this. But what I did do after that, I had a play around, reduced the rate of fire to 15, and semi was shooting fine, which is great. I know it shoots perfectly in semi when I have it in fully auto. Sorry, I should have made that clear. So when I had the select option in fully auto at 15 RPS, it was shooting fine in semi. It was shooting just once, there was no burst. So I gradually increased it, and when I hit 27, that's when I started seeing issues on the RPS. So I will send it back just to figure out what's going on, but I like to just have a run out with the gun just to see if there's anything else wrong with it before I send it back. But as you can see, we're on the rate of fire settings. Now if I flick it down, we now move to the semi option, so the first option on your selector, and then if I change it again, so press both of them at the same time, the top LED will go red. Now this is for the select option, which is for auto here. Now like I say, this is where I was seeing issues, but what you can do is you can, if you wanted to, go up to 1. Now both will shoot in semi. If you go to 7, this is going to basically only allow you to pull the trigger every 2 seconds. This is the DMR option. Then as you gradually decrease, you have your burst options, and it's all laid out on here as well, which is really useful on the actual FCU. So you can see the burst options, how many rounds you're bursting. So on this we have 5, so that's a 7-round burst. 4 is a 5-round burst. 3 is a 3-round burst, 2 is a 2-round burst, and then 1 is back to a semi. So I'm going to drop that back to 6, just to standard. Now, this will basically not time itself out, but the FCU LEDs will turn themselves off after a couple of minutes and not being used. But what I will do is I'm going to pop that back into safe. I am now going to drop this into the buffer tube. So we'll put the FCU in first. This is the easiest way I've found to thread it through, and then the LiPo will follow through relatively easy after. Now again, as I mentioned, the key thing, just so you can see this really easily, I have got the HPA airline running down the, so it will be the right hand side of this line. So the FCU wires are running on the left hand side of the HPA airline. This is what Wolverine recommend, and it seems to work perfectly well from what I've seen over the last week or so. So I'm going to put this back together, making sure not to pinch that wire. Put this back in. As you can see, feds in, feeds in. It would feed in if the lug was pulled all the way out. There we go. Feeds in relatively nicely. Push them together, pop the lug in, and we're good to go. Now if I move into semi, we can actually hear, can we? Let's check. We can. It's hard to hear in semi. So if we pull the trigger, we can hear some engagement. I'm pretty sure that's from the engine or from the trigger board. And then move to semi, we can hear that firing as well. So the battery is working, the FCU is working perfectly fine. Now, like I say, the issue I saw was when I increased the rate of fire over 20 to 27 or over in semi, it was bursting. Reduced it and it's working fine again now, so I will get that checked at some point. I typically don't use full auto anyway, so it's not going to affect me, but I would still recommend getting it checked out if you see the same issue. Obviously, if you're paying a lot of money for something, you want it to work perfectly well. To be honest, guys, that's it. That is the Wolverine Forged Tactical Edition. This is, from a glance, I know I've not used it yet out in the field, but it is awesome. It feels great in my hands right now. The stock also feels great when I've shouldered it. It extends perfectly well, clips in. It just feels like an awesome piece of kit. It's really well made, forged aluminium, and as far as I'm aware, it's probably the closest thing you can get to a real AR in terms of how it's been forged by Wolverine, so hats off to them for that. I will be running this on Sunday, so I'll have some gameplay with it. I'll give a review after I've used it compared to, again, the only gun I've ever used, the only riff I've ever used, which is the Chris Vector AEG. I don't think there's going to be much of a comparison. The only comparison I can really think about would be at CQB. That riff is awesome at CQB. Whereas this, I'm looking for more range. That's typically how I play anyway. So this, I think, is going to fit my gameplay a lot better. So I'm very much looking forward to using it. But that's it, guys. Thanks so much for watching this. Please do feel free to go and leave a like, subscribe if you're interested. And we'll be back again with another video soon. Thanks. Bye.